Disgraced bank manager exposed after hidden transformation. Homeless woman becomes inspiring CEO. In the vibrant streets of Philadelphia, where every corner tells a story, Sarah stood at a crossroads. Once homeless, she had clawed her way up from the depths of despair to become the head of a local financial literacy initiative. Her journey was hard-fought, with each step echoing with resilience, hope, and the spirit of those who believed in second chances. She strutted through the crowded community center, her heart racing as the anticipation grew. Today was her day to inspire, to ignite change. But there, lurking in the shadows, was John, a disgraced bank manager whose life had crumbled under the weight of his greed. He was a man perpetually haunted by past choices, stranded in shame. The aspiration that once fueled his career had transformed into a fear that kept him stagnant. All around him, vibrant colors and laughter filled the air, creating a stark contrast to his heavy heart. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, the air thickened. Yes, he had strayed far from his fatherly duties, abandoning the son who yearned for acceptance. Could Sarah see past his failure? Could he see the hope in her eyes? As Sarah stepped up to the microphone, her voice rang through the hall like a beacon. "We are here to empower each other," she declared, passion dancing in her eyes. Supporters cheered, people leaned in, hungry for her message. Her deep-seated belief in community shone brightly, and every word was a brushstroke on the canvas of change she was painting. But in the back, John felt small, a mere flicker in the grand tapestry she wove. She poured her soul into her project's purpose, breaking barriers, rebuilding lives. Her voice caught in her throat as she began to share her own story of survival, and she could see tears glistening in the audience's eyes. Those were her people. Each heartfelt moment built a bridge across the divide that had kept them apart. Just then, Sarah noticed John shifting uneasily, his distant expression betraying a rush of conflict. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." John swallowed hard. Could he redeem himself through her initiative? The growing desperation in Sarah's eyes struck a chord deep within him. What could an act of goodwill look like for a man who had nothing to lose? As the event progressed, where laughter turned to silence, Sarah's project faced a sudden crisis. Funding slipped away like sand through her fingers, and she felt the weight of disillusionment pressing down on her. Was her mission worth it? Could she fend off the shadows that gathered around her dreams? With an unexpected surge of courage, John stepped forward, extending an olive branch. "I want to sponsor your initiative," he offered, his voice shaky, yet sincere. Those words danced like hope in the air, and Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Could this be the beginning of a new chapter for both of them? Together, could they rise not just for themselves, but for a community hungry for change? As their eyes locked, a glimmer of understanding ignited, yet unvoiced doubts lingered. On the precipice of intertwining destinies, hope glimmered just ahead. Would they find a way to lift each other up, or remain lost in the weight of their pasts? The answer loomed in the air, and both Sarah and John stood ready to confront it. The room held its breath, an electric current threading through the crowd. Could John's offer shift the tides? Sarah stared at him, caught between disbelief and possibility. She had poured everything into her project, and now, this man who once thrived on the backs of others, was extending a lifeline. "Are you serious?" she finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Skepticism fought fervently with curiosity within her, yet, as she studied John's face, she sensed the fragility of the moment. His pleading eyes reflected a soul eager for redemption. "Yes," he replied, his voice stronger now, clearly trying to shake off the shadows of his past. "I want to help. I know I'm not the person you'd expect, but I've seen what despair can do. I can't sit back and watch you fight alone. Let me support this." The room erupted into murmurs, a mixture of disbelief and tentative hope rippling through the audience. Sarah's heart raced. Was it possible that his intentions were genuine? She had witnessed too many broken promises in her life to trust easily. Yet standing there, she also felt a spark, one that mirrored the light flickering in John. "What does that mean?" she asked, her brows furrowed, her mind running wild with possibilities. Would accepting his help taint her mission? Would people ever see him as anything but the man responsible for so many financial failures? "It means I'll cover the funding shortfall," John said, his eyes steady. "I can't undo my past, but I can help build a better future, yours, and anyone else who needs it." Around them, people began to speak up, some expressing skepticism, others urging caution. But as Sarah stood in the center of the swirling emotions, she could feel the change in the air. It was palpable, transformative. Taking a deep breath, she weighed her options. "If I accept your help, I need complete honesty. No cutting corners. This is about trust. You'll need to be committed to this." "Absolutely," John replied, nodding fervently. "I want to be a part of it. I need to be a part of it." As the audience began to rally behind her, Sarah felt the distance between them collapse. Perhaps this partnership wasn't about them as individuals, but how together they could revolutionize lives. People began to share their stories, rising from their seats and connecting with one another. John's presence seemed to stir something deeper within them, igniting whispers of hope. Maybe they could learn from the shadows of their pasts instead of being chained to them. As the event concluded, Sarah felt a sense of optimism she hadn't known in years. Perhaps she could trust John. Perhaps he would be the glue that would bind their fractured community. Then, among the claps and laughter, Sarah caught a glimpse of something she hadn't expected. In John's eyes, she saw a flicker of fear mixed with excitement. Redemption wasn't just an idea to him. It was a necessity. Their paths had merged, but the journey ahead was still uncertain. Would they truly be able to uplift one another, or would they crumble under the weight of their pasts? With the crowd lingering, conversations buzzing with new possibilities, Sarah stepped closer to John. "We need to start planning. Tomorrow we begin this journey together." As he nodded in agreement, a question hung in the air. Could they truly find a way to build a brand new future, leaving behind the ruins of their past? The next chapter was unwritten, but they were ready to pen it together. What challenges awaited them, and would their emerging partnership withstand the tests to come? The sun crested the horizon, casting warm rays through the windows of the community center, where Sarah and John had agreed to meet first thing in the morning. The scent of fresh coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the anticipation that crackled between them. Today marked the beginning of something new, a shared commitment to rebuild. As Sarah arrived, she found John already seated at a long table, papers spread out before him like a map of their future. His brow was furrowed in concentration, the weight of his past evident in his every movement. But this time, he wasn't hiding behind a facade. He was vulnerable and raw, much like the individuals they were all hoping to uplift. "Hey, you made it," he greeted, a hesitant smile breaking through his nerves. "Of course. I want to make sure we're on the same page," Sarah replied, her voice steady. She took a seat, her heart pounding as she glanced at the chaotic assortment of figures and notes before them. "So, what's the plan?" John shuffled the papers, fumbling slightly as he organized his thoughts. "I've been researching potential funding sources, local grants, and partnerships with organizations focusing on community development." He paused, looking directly into her eyes. "I want transparency. We can't afford to miss any opportunities." Sarah nodded. The earnestness in his tone was a welcome sight. "Okay, let's break it down. We need to reach out to the community first, gather their needs, and establish relationships. People have to feel invested." "Right," John said, visibly more confident. "If we start with a few workshops and outreach events, we can showcase what our project can offer. We'll gather stories to inspire others." The conversation flowed easily, their combined enthusiasm igniting a fire within the room. Each idea bounced back and forth, building on one another until they were both buzzing with possibility. They were no longer just individuals. Together, They began to transform into a team. But amidst the excitement, doubt lingered in Sarah's mind. Could John truly change? Could his past not overshadow their ambitions? She recalled whispers from the crowd just last night, murmurings of disgust and disbelief. Would those voices follow them every step of the way? "Hey, can we talk about something?" Sarah asked, her heart fluttering. "I know the community is wary of you. I feel it too. It's going to be tough changing their perceptions, and I need to know you're ready for that." John's expression darkened momentarily. "I understand. I'm prepared to face the backlash. I only hope that my actions speak louder than my past." "Your actions will need to be remarkable," Sarah insisted, her tone firm. "We're up against a lot." "I'll do whatever it takes," he replied, determination etched into his voice. "But Sarah, I need your trust too. If we're going to succeed, we must be authentic, not just to the community, but to ourselves. Let them see the real us." As the morning wore on, their plans took shape, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of impending challenges. The question loomed. Could they stay true to each other when the tides turned against them? They wrapped up their meeting, and Sarah felt an unfamiliar thrill of hope. But just as she reached for her bag, her phone buzzed. A message blinked on the screen, a cryptic warning from an anonymous number, hinting at danger that could ruin everything they were trying to build. Her breath caught in her throat. What did this mean for their fresh start? Could they truly craft a brighter future together? Or would their partnership crumble under the pressure of unseen threats? As she stared at the screen, the weight of the world pressed in on her. She felt a pivotal moment approaching. The true test of their journey was just beginning. Sarah's heart raced as she stared at the ominous message. The anonymity felt like a dark cloud hovering over her newfound hope. She quickly swiped to reply, but instead of typing, she hesitated. What if it was just a prank? Or worse, what if it was real? She shot a glance at John, who appeared lost in his thoughts, jotting down notes about their next steps. "John," she said, her voice cracking slightly. He looked up, concern knitting his brow. "I just got a text, a warning," she confessed, her hand trembling slightly as she showed him the screen. His expression shifted from curiosity to alarm as he read the words. "What does it say?" "It talks about some kind of danger. It's vague, but—" She took a deep breath, grappling with her rising anxiety. "What if this is about us? What if someone is trying to sabotage our plans?" John's jaw tightened as he processed her words. "We can't let it distract us. If it's real, we'll face it together. If it's not, we can't give it power." The determination in his voice was reassuring, but Sarah's mind spiraled into worst-case scenarios. What did they actually have to lose? It was more than just their project. It was their reputations, their hopes, their chance at redemption. "I just can't shake off the feeling that this is bigger than we think," she admitted softly. "People are on edge, you know that. They're not excited about change. They're afraid of it." John leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "I get that. I've been there. But we have to show them that change is worth it. We can't let fear overshadow the light we can bring." "You're right," she said, her resolve strengthening again. "But how do we approach this? We can't just ignore the fear in the community. We start by being transparent." He leaned forward, eyes focused. "We hold a meeting, a town hall. We need to show our faces, hear their concerns, and maybe, just maybe, this will help clear the air." Sarah felt a spark of excitement at the idea. "You mean a place where they can ask questions?" "Yeah, that could work. But it'll need to be more than just talk. We need to present our plan, show them we're invested too." "Yes. And if we share some stories our own, it might help connect. Just think, people love a good comeback story." Her heart swelled at the thought. Their stories were powerful, wrought with struggle and resilience. But what if they faced hostility when they put themselves on display? John's hand reached across the table, gently catching hers. "This is bigger than just us. They need to see that we're not perfect. We've both stumbled, but we're standing again. That's the message. That's the transparency we need." She nodded, finally feeling momentum shift back in their favor. "Okay, let's set a date, spread the word. And maybe We can take a few volunteers to help with the workshops, get the community involved from the get-go. As they discussed logistics, Sarah's phone buzzed again, pulling her back to the urgency of the moment. Another message flickered on the screen. Her stomach dropped as she read the new text. "Stay away from him, Sarah. You can't trust a liar." Panic washed over her. Was this the same person? And what did they mean? Did it really refer to John? John leaned forward, concern etched in his features. "What is it?" She showed him the screen, searching for reassurance in his eyes. Instead, she saw worry. Do you think this is serious?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Sarah, we need to be careful," he replied, a hard edge creeping into his tone. "But we can't let fear dictate our actions." Could they move forward knowing this shadow lurked just behind them? Would they be able to confront whatever was lurking, or would they crumble under the weight of uncertainty? As they planned their next steps, the issues in their path felt grander than ever. Could they really build trust and a new life amid threats lurking in the shadows? With each day that passed, the stakes continued to rise. And just as Sarah found the strength to push back the doubt, another message chimed through. "Meet me where it all began, or lose everything." Her breath hitched. What did it mean? What would she have to sacrifice to ensure their future was safe? Sarah felt a pit form in her stomach as the weight of the message pressed down on her. The idea of meeting someone from the past, especially under these circumstances, sent chills up her spine. Who were they? And why did they want to meet now? John's voice broke through her haze of dread, firm and steady. "We can't run away from this. What if this person knows something? Maybe it's the key to understanding what's happening." "But what if it's a trap?" Sarah shot back, every instinct in her screamed to play it safe, to pull away and not put herself in another vulnerable position. He paused, letting the silence hang for a moment, then leaned closer. "We won't go alone. We gather a team, people we trust. We prepare ourselves for whatever it is. If we can face our past, we can reshape our future." The resolve in his eyes lit a tiny spark in her chest. Maybe confronting this challenge was the very thing they needed. Perhaps it would even bring the community together as they uncovered truths, fought deception, and built something more solid from their shared history. "I'll call Jenna," she decided, her fingers dancing over her phone screen. Jenna had been a source of support since their journey started, someone who could bring a fresh perspective. She quickly dialed, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope as it rang. "Hey, Sarah, what's up?" Jenna's voice came through bright and welcoming. "Jenna, we need your help. Can you meet us? It's about our project, and it's gotten complicated." "Of course. I can be there in half an hour." "Thanks. I'll explain everything when you get here," Sarah replied, hanging up and taking a deep breath. In those 30 minutes, Sarah's mind raced. Every scenario played out, from the risk of exposure to potential alliances. Despite every lingering fear, she couldn't ignore the multitude of voices in her head urging her to seize control. When Jenna arrived, her face was painted with curiosity. "Okay, spill. You look like you've seen a ghost." "We got another message," Sarah said, sliding her phone across the table. She watched as Jenna took in the words, her brow furrowing with each sentence. "Huh. This person wants to meet?" Jenna looked up, doubt evident in her expression. "You don't think it's a prank?" "I don't know." Sarah shook her head. "But they know something. Something important. We just have to figure out how to handle it." Jenna rubbed her chin, lost in thought before speaking again. "Then perhaps we should turn the tables. Let's gather a group. Set the terms for this meeting. We'll make it public. Put some power back in your hands." Sarah felt a wave of solidarity wash over her. It was exactly the kind of proactive approach she needed. "You're right. If we take charge, we can set the narrative." "Absolutely. And whether this person is friend or foe, they'll see that we're not afraid," Jenna said with purpose. As they strategized, making plans for the meeting, Sarah felt a fire ignite within. She would gather her community, ready to confront whatever awaited them. Together, they could face any storm, be it the shadows of the past or threats of the present. Just as their plans coalesced into something concrete, the phone vibrated on the table, cutting through their focused conversation. Another message flickered on the screen. Time is running out. You have until sunset tomorrow. Panic surged through Sarah. What did that mean? What could happen by tomorrow's end? The looming deadline only tightened the knot in her stomach, but instead of retreating, she felt a surge of adrenaline. They were on the cusp of something monumental, and she wouldn't let fear win. She looked at John and Jenna, resolute. We meet this person, set the terms, and prepare the community. No more hiding in the shadows. As they dove deeper into their plans, Sarah knew that danger laid ahead, but so did the potential for growth. Tomorrow would demand everything from them, and she was ready to stand firm in the face of whatever came next. But what if they weren't prepared for the truth that unfolded at the meeting? Would it forever alter their destinies? The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the town as Sarah, John, and Jenna worked on their preparations. The ticking clock in the background felt like a heartbeat, echoing the urgency thick in the air. Each passing minute reminded them of the impending confrontation, amplifying the blend of hope and fear that settled in the pit of Sarah's stomach. Okay, Jenna said, pulling Sarah out of her thoughts. We need to figure out who we can count on. I'd suggest starting with the board members from the community center. They've always believed in the cause. Good idea, Sarah replied, nodding. But we need more. This has to be bigger. We need people who have seen the truth and can stand by us if things get rough. John shifted in his seat, his brow furrowed in concentration. We can use social media too. If we announce the meeting, it could rally more supporters. And if this person has any bad intentions, they might think twice if they know the crowd's watching. Sarah felt a rush of determination. The idea of making their concerns public felt potent. Let's do it. I'll draft a post and we can all share it. I don't want to let the shadows dictate our next move. As she tapped away on her phone, Sarah's thoughts swirled. What kind of person would they be confronting? The image of a shadowy figure with sinister motives kept creeping in, but she shook it off. They were setting their own terms this time. They would not be driven into corners anymore. Done. It's posted, she announced, her voice laced with excitement and anxiety. The notification ping sounded like a starting gun, igniting her urgency. Jenna glanced at the screen, her eyes lighting up. Look at the likes pouring in. I think people are ready to support you. They believe in this. They believe in you. Together, we can make it work, John replied, leaning in closer with an encouraging smile. But beneath her facade of confidence, Sarah's mind raced. The clock was still ticking down toward sunset. What would happen if they opened this door? What truths could possibly come out? Could she really handle the fallout? Suddenly a thought struck her. What if this person is someone we trusted? What if they were involved in the very thing we've been trying to expose? The notion sent chills down her spine. That's a possibility we can't ignore, Jenna said, her voice sober. But we can't dwell on the what-ifs right now. We need to stay focused. Tension hung in the air as they brainstormed logistics for the meeting and addressed every possible angle. The possibility of betrayal mixed with their determination created a charged atmosphere. As the conversation flowed, they began to feel the weight lift slightly, bolstered by shared commitment. Let's meet at the park. It's public, and we can set up to make sure everyone's comfortable, John suggested. If things do go sideways, we'll have backup. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the heat of the moment building. And if it goes well, what if we uncover truths that could finally help heal our community? Jenna smiled, the corner of her mouth lifting. Then we make history. We take everything we've learned and turn this around. As they finalized their plans, a quiet resolve filled the space between them. They would face their fears together. Tomorrow's meeting would either shatter their past or propel them into a new beginning. Just then Sarah's phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen, her heart plummeting. Another message from the unknown sender. I won't be alone tomorrow. Are you ready for the truth? Her breath caught. What did that mean? Had they stirred something much bigger than they anticipated? The weight of uncertainty pressed in, suffocating but exhilarating. Tomorrow would not just be a meeting, it would be a reckoning. Sarah realized they were standing at the edge of a precipice. Would they rise above everything that had held them back? Would they uncover the truth together, no matter what it cost? With her heart pounding, she looked at John and Jenna. No matter what happens, we stand our ground together. For our future. Whatever it may hold. But as she said the words, a seed of doubt planted itself in her mind. Would they remain united in the face of the unexpected? Only time would tell what awaited them as the sun set, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. The cool night air felt electric as Sarah, John, and Jenna approached the park the next afternoon. They could see the shadows of their small town stretching across the grassy field, splashed with the colors of sunset. An undercurrent of excitement mingled with anxiety as people began to gather. Each face told a different story. Some were familiar friends, while others were strangers driven by the same thirst for justice. Sarah took a deep breath, her heart beating a rapid tattoo against her chest. This was it. This was the moment they had hoped for. "Look," Jenna whispered, pointing toward the crowd. "More than I expected. They're here for you." Sarah felt a swell of emotions. Flashes of encouragement from the past echoed in her mind as she stepped onto a small makeshift platform. The crowd hushed, eyes locked onto her. She turned to John and Jenna, both nodding at her, faces filled with pride and concern. "Thank you all for coming," Sarah began, her voice quivering slightly. "Today, we stand on the brink of change. We're speaking out against the shadows that have lurked in our community for too long." Apprehension weighed heavily, but the atmosphere filled with hope bolstered her spirit. She laid out their mission, emphasizing the importance of unity and betrayal's sharp sting. As she spoke, a small flame ignited within her. "We all deserve the truth, and together we will reveal what lies hidden behind closed doors." Applause broke out, and she felt invigorated. But just as she found her rhythm, doubt gnawed at her insides. What if the person they had called out stepped forward? What could they expose that Sarah and her friends hadn't anticipated? A figure emerged from the crowd, a shadow blending into the twilight. Instinctively, her heart raced as she squinted against the fading sunlight. "Who are you?" she called out, trying to keep her voice steady. "Someone who knows the truth," the figure said, fearlessly stepping into the light. It was a woman, visibly worn and frail, but there was an intensity in her eyes, a fierceness that sent chills down Sarah's spine. "You're fighting the wrong battles, dear." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Jenna squeezed Sarah's arm, a protective gesture mingled with apprehension. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, her voice low but firm. She couldn't back down. "The truth you're searching for, it's closer than you think. The person you're confronting, well, they're connected to everyone here in a way you wouldn't believe." The woman paused, and the collective breath of the crowd seemed to hold for a moment. Sarah's mind spun with possibilities. "Then tell us," Jenna urged, stepping up beside Sarah, her voice strong amidst the tension. "If we're on the brink of something monumental, we need to know. Are you ready for the truth? Are you ready to face what you might unearth?" The woman's voice hovered like shadows stretching across the crowd. For a brief moment, Sarah hesitated, the weight of the decision heavy on her shoulders. What if they weren't prepared for the fallout? But as she looked around, at the faces filled with expectation, hope, and even a tinge of fear, she knew they had crossed a threshold. There was no turning back. "We're ready," Sarah stated, feeling her resolve harden like steel. "Tell us everything." But even as the words left her mouth, a sense of impending doom wrapped around her thoughts. What truths would they be forced to confront, and would they emerge whole on the other side? As the woman began to speak, revealing connections that would shatter Sarah's perception of trust in her community, Sarah braced herself for the unimaginable. What secrets lay beneath the surface, waiting to unravel everything they thought they knew? The hardest truths often required the fiercest courage. The woman took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts as the crowd leaned in, eager for revelation. "I can't tell you everything all at once, it's too much," she said, her voice shaking. But I can tell you this. The person you're confronting is a part of the very fabric of your community. They've woven themselves into the lives of everyone here. Sarah felt the weight of the crowd's scrutiny pressing down on her. Murmurs rippled through the audience, a tight knot of tension knotting in her chest. "Who are you talking about?" Sarah pushed, heart racing, each word laced with urgency. The woman's gaze swept across the crowd before locking onto Sarah's eyes. "Mr. Adams, your bank manager," she said finally, the name sending a shiver down Sarah's spine. "He's not who you think he is." "What do you mean?" John piped up from the edge of the crowd, his brow furrowing with confusion. Sarah glanced at him, hoping his uncertainty mirrored her own. "Do you want the truth, or do you want what's comfortable?" the woman questioned, fire igniting in her voice. "Mr. Adams exploited the trust of this community for years. He's taken more than money. He's taken lives, dreams, and futures." Gasps emerged from the audience, and Sarah felt her stomach churn. Images of their bank, the big red logo, and the smiling face of Mr. Adams flashed in her mind like snapshots. He had seemed like a pillar of strength, a man committed to helping their town thrive. "What do you mean by taken lives?" Jenna asked, stepping forward, her voice cutting through the growing noise of disbelief and anger from the crowd. "He manipulated struggling families into debt, convinced them to take loans they couldn't afford, and when people faltered, he wasn't there to help them up. He left them in ruins without a second thought." The woman clenched her fists, eyes glaring with passion. "I've seen what he's done to people, to my family. Why should we believe you?" Sarah's voice shook with anger, but she could feel her resolve wavering. The thought of Mr. Adams, someone she had trusted, implicated in such actions. It was horrifying. "Because I'm one of those people," the woman replied, holding her head high. "I was homeless, lost in that web of deceit, and I'm tired of running and hiding. Now I've started a non-profit, and I want to help those he left behind. My voice may be frail, but my truth is strong. I want you all to know who he really is." The crowd stirred, shifting with uncertainty. Some faces looked indignant, while others bore the weight of realization. Sarah's heart raced, thoughts firing through her mind like the rapid beat of a drum. The ambition and breadth of this woman's fight struck a chord in her. "But if we expose him, what happens next? People will have to choose. Stay in power to protect their comfort or stand for what's right," the woman stated, her expression earnest. "And you will be the catalyst for that change, Sarah. But you must decide how far you will go to liberate your community." Could they really confront someone so powerful? The crowd stirred restlessly, theories and fears bubbling up around her. Yet deep down, Sarah sensed the spark of something extraordinary waiting to be ignited. "Are you with me?" The woman's voice rang out, piercing through the murmur of the crowd. "Will you fight alongside me?" As she looked around, Sarah saw determination mirrored in the eyes of her friends and neighbors. The stakes were monumental, and the truth they were pursuing could shake their foundations to the core. "We're with you," Sarah finally shouted, feeling a rush of hope surge through her veins, igniting her spirit. "Let's fight together." A cheer erupted, the energy shifted, electrifying the atmosphere around them. But within that surge of unity was still a lurking fear. What repercussions would they face when this truth surged out into their lives? With adrenaline coursing through her, Sarah realized that their path was just beginning. The fight for justice would not be easy, but the hearts of the people were finally aligned. What awaited them as they stepped into this battle against corruption that could reshape their town forever? The crowd erupted into fervor, shouts of agreement echoing around the square. Sarah could feel the collective heartbeat of the community, a rhythmic pulse of hope and anger. Yet beneath the surface of enthusiasm, doubt still lurked in the corners of her mind. As the cheers began to quiet down, Sarah glanced at the woman who had ignited this firestorm. "What's our first step?" she asked, her voice rising above the fading clamor. "The first step is gathering evidence," the woman replied, determination clear in her eyes. "We need to show them the truth, make them see the damage he's done." Sarah took a deep breath. "How do we even get started? He's a bank manager. He has resources, connections." "Exactly," the woman interjected. "But so do we, in a different way. We have each other, our stories, and the strength of numbers. We can reach out to those affected and start collecting their experiences. John stepped forward, his expression now serious. I know a couple of families who were pushed into foreclosure. I could talk to them. Good. The woman nodded, a spark of gratitude lighting her face. We need to create a list of all the people who suffered because of Mr. Adams. Once we have that, we can approach the city council and demand action. A sense of urgency swept through the crowd. Fingers began to fly over cell phones, connecting dots and making calls. Sarah felt a sense of belonging, a tangible connection with each person around her. This was their fight, their shared burden. But that warmth of unity was short-lived. As she broke off from the group, her mind drifted to her own family. The debts, the struggles. What if they were next? What if they were already on the brink? Sarah, wait! Jenna's voice pulled her from her thoughts. You okay? Sarah turned to her friend, trying to mask her worry. Yeah, just thinking. Jenna offered a reassuring smile. We all know what's at stake here, but we can't let fear hold us back. I know, Sarah sighed. It's just what? Jenna pressed gently. What if this backfires? What if he retaliates? He's done enough damage, Sarah. If we don't speak out now, he'll keep hurting people. Jenna's words rung with strength, grounding Sarah amidst her swirling doubts. Together they rejoined the group, where names and stories were being exchanged with renewed fervor. One by one, people began recalling incidents, the loan shark tactics, the broken promises. Each account was a thread in the larger tapestry of deceit. But moments later, the atmosphere shifted. A thunderous sound echoed down the street. Headlights pierced through the darkening sky. Sarah's heart sank as a black SUV pulled up to the square, the logo of the bank emblazoned on the door. The energy in the crowd shifted, whispers erupting like wildfire. Stay calm, the woman urged, raising her hands. But the tension was palpable. What was Mr. Adams doing here? The door swung open, and out stepped Mr. Adams himself, a confident smirk plastered on his face. I see we have a party going on, he called out, his voice dripping with condescension. What is all this chatter about? The crowd shrank back, uncertainty thickening the air. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. This was the moment, the defining moment. Mr. Adams! Sarah found her voice, cutting through the murmurings. She stepped forward, channeling every ounce of courage within her. We need to talk. But what would she even say? And what would be the consequences of their defiance? Before she could gather her thoughts, he grinned wider. Oh, really? And what, pray tell? Do you think you're going to say? Questions, tension, and the fight for justice hung in the air. But Sarah could feel a flame of resolve building inside her. Maybe a truth you can't ignore, she whispered, eyes locked onto his. As the crowd hummed with energy, Sarah realized this battle had only just begun. Would they stand strong against the powerful, or would fear prevail? One confrontation could change everything, and she was ready to face it head-on. What would happen when they began to uncover the deeper secrets hiding beneath the polished surface of their community? The stakes were higher than ever. The night was alive with anticipation. The park transformed into a battleground of ideals and courage. Sarah stood tall, heart racing, as the shadow of Mr. Adams loomed before her. The palpable tension in the air made every breath heavy, but she felt the unyielding spirit of her community surrounding her, urging her to take a stand. Mr. Adams, she began, her voice steady yet fierce. We know the truth. We know how you've exploited our community for your gain. You've turned lives upside down, left families broken and homeless for your profit. His smirk faded slightly, a flicker of irritation crossing his features. You think you can expose me? Do you really believe you have the backing to take me down? His tone was patronizing, but Sarah remained undeterred. We're not afraid anymore, she declared, the crowd behind her erupting in a chorus of agreement. We're taking control of our narrative. This ends now. As anger flashed in his eyes, Sarah sensed the shift in the room. Her community was ready. They had gathered the names, the stories, and now they stood shoulder to shoulder as one. Together they no longer felt weak. They thrived on hope and collective strength. Those stories you've gathered won't mean a thing, Mr. Adams retorted sharply. People will always choose comfort over chaos. You really think they care about your struggle? Jenna stepped forward, voice cutting through the tense air. You're wrong. People crave authenticity and transparency. They want to see real actions, not just empty words. Her courage fired up the audience, igniting waves of determination. Suddenly, a voice broke through the crowd. One of the families Sarah had believed would be lost in despair stepped forward. It was a mother who had fought to keep her family together, her eyes filled with renewed strength. You took my home, my stability, but you won't take my voice, she proclaimed, her words piercing the silence. The crowd erupted in cheers and the energy was electric. Sarah locked eyes with the mother, understanding how fragile yet powerful community could be. Here they were, reclaiming their narratives, showing that fear had no place when solidarity reigned. You think you know what's best for us, but you have no idea of the impact of your lies. No longer will we remain silent, the mother continued. Mr. Adams shifted, his confident facade starting to crack. This isn't over, he warned. You'll regret this. But Sarah felt a swell of defiance surging through her. No, you will regret underestimating us. She turned to the crowd, emboldened. It's time for us to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Together, we'll uncover your deceitful edge and stand firm. You've underestimated the power of this community. His eyes flickered, and for a brief moment she saw fear. The facade of control he had built began to crumble. The woman who had initiated these discussions stepped up beside Sarah, hand on her shoulder. We will share our stories. We will speak in unison. This is just the beginning of the reckoning. You'll face the consequences of your actions. Loud murmurs rippled through the crowd, resonating with the weight of so many lives intertwined with the truths they would reveal. Sarah felt the walls closing around Mr. Adams, yet she knew they needed to maintain their courage moving forward. This wasn't just about confronting Mr. Adams. It was about challenging a broken system, demanding accountability. They were becoming rallying cries for justice, lighting the way for a community in need of healing. Let's not stop here, Sarah urged, her voice ringing loud and clear, echoing into the depths of the night. Let's organize, let's strategize, and turn these stories into action. We will not hide behind the shadows. We will shine brightly for those who've lost their way. As the crowd erupted into applause, Sarah breathed deeply, absorbing the warmth and strength of her community. They were ready to step into the light, transforming their pain into power, driving them forward into a future they could reclaim. Mr. Adams, realizing his crumbling control, retreated slightly. The energy of the crowd was unstoppable, and the path ahead promised to be both thrilling and daunting. As they began to chant, one united voice strong against the dark, Sarah knew the real work was just beginning. Together, they would confront the consequences of their past, building a collective future free from the shadows that had ruled their lives for far too long. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, Sarah felt the dawn of a new chapter unfolding. With her community rallied and standing firm beside her, she was ready to face whatever came next, digging deeper into the truth and transforming lives in the process. Now is our moment, she cried, voice soaring. For our homes, our families, our community. Let's rise together. With one last roar of unity, they stepped into the twilight, embarking on a journey toward justice and healing, ignited by the light of hope. And as they strode forward, the trees of the park whispered encouragement. In every step taken, a promise was made. This was only the beginning, and together they could achieve the incredible. Now, my friends, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on these transformative stories. Leave a like now to feed that algorithm. Share this powerful ending with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey of resilience and unity. Your actions make all the difference. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. Be a part of our community and spread the word.